Inflation and a volatile stock market last year sort of turning some millennials and Gen Zers off of investing. Instead, they're increasingly putting their money into high-yield savings accounts. So when does it make financial sense to use them? And when is it better to maybe throw your money in the stock market? Stefanie O'Connell Rodriguez is here with me in Studio 57 to talk a little bit more about all of this. She's the host of Real Simple's Money Confidential podcast. Thanks for joining us. So listen, when I saw this topic, I thought to myself, this is for wealthy people who have $100,000 in their savings account. I'm not one of those people. Certainly, when I was the age of a Gen Z or a millennial, I don't think I was one of those people. I didn't have that extra money. So, why does this sort of bank account even make sense for people who don't have a lot of money?
For sure. Well, I think we all want to get more from our money. And the thing is, a savings account is one of the first kinds of tools we can use to really start building wealth, building savings. And with a high-yield savings account, seeing a little bit of a return on our money. High-yield savings accounts right now are paying interest rates around 3.5%.
Okay.
That's a pretty substantial amount of money.
Right.
As opposed to the national average on savings account is at 0.35%.
Right.
That's a 10x difference. So if you have a $10,000 balance, that's over the course of a year, the difference between maybe seeing like $35 in interest versus $350 in interest. That's not the same kind of return if you had, $250,000 in that account.
Yeah.
But it's something, and it's nice to see something for your money.
I always say it's $350 you didn't have before, right? So that's always a come up. So are there any sort of like restrictions on these sorts of accounts? Because I think some people hear that and they think, oh, I probably have to have a minimum balance, and so they don't even pursue it.
Well, it's certainly worth shopping around. Just like you're going to shop around for the best interest rate, you want to shop around to see if there's any fees associated. You want to shop around to see if you have to maintain a minimum balance or if you have to keep a certain balance to get that great interest rate. So it's certainly worth putting on your consumer hat, just like you would for a purchase, as you're shopping around for those savings accounts.
So as you know, during the pandemic, a lot of us were sitting at home downloading apps and trying to make the best of the stock market based on our limited knowledge. I readily admit everybody knows I was one of those people, and I don't really know much about the stock market. But I think, this sort of stuff made it a lot easier to invest in the stock market kind of on a whim. Yeah. And now I think we're all sort of getting a hard lesson in the ups and downs of the stock market. I guess when you look at someone who doesn't have a ton of money and given the option of, investing and swiping up or swiping down on a stock, would you suggest the stock market versus just park your money?
I think you really have to ask yourself, what is this money for? Is this money for my safety and security, emergency fund, that money that I'm going to use if I get a flat on my car, like a home repair, I go through a layoff? That's very topical right now.
Yeah.
Is this money I'm going to need to turn to and reliably have for me and not have risked in the stock market and subjected to the short-term volatility and the ups and downs of the market?
Yeah.
Secondly, is this money that I'm using for a short-term goal, something I want to do in the next year or two? Maybe it's a down payment on a home. Maybe it's a wedding. I know that you see returns maybe 6-7+% in the stock market over the long term, and you think, I'd rather have 7% on my money than 3%. Yeah. But the thing about the stock market is there's a risk. We just don't know what it's going to return. And last year was a really good lesson in the risk of that. So these high-yield savings accounts, especially these days when they're paying these interest rates around 3% plus, are a great option for that money that you want to be there for you.
Really good financial advice, Stefanie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This Money Watch segment has been brought to you by Merrill, a Bank of America company. What would you like the power to do?